and welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick, with the City of Hampton's Communications and Marketing Department. And today we're going to talk about the impact on the city of our federal facilities. They really do a great deal to shape the life that we have here. And Hampton has a full-time person who works with those federal facilities. My guest is Bruce Sturk. Welcome, Bruce.
Thank you, Robin.
You're going to have to tell me your formal title.
Sure, it's Director of Federal Facility Support for the City of Hampton.
Now, what does that mean exactly?
Well, my portfolio includes the activities at Langley Air Force Base, now Joint Base Langley-Eustis,
Right.
Fort Monroe, the National Monument with the National Park Service there, and the closure activities of Fort Monroe, the Hampton VA Medical Center, and NASA-Langley Research Center. So all those federal facilities are our neighbors, our partners, our work here in the City of Hampton. So my daily responsibilities are to interact and liaison with those installations.
And how long have you been doing this?
I started in 2008 with the City of Hampton after 26 years in the Air Force, so continued to serve in kind of a public service role, and it's been a very rewarding almost 6 years now.
Wow, and I think maybe, I read this in the paper, so I'm not positive, but that this is a really unique position. The other cities in the area don't necessarily have this. Why does Hampton need it?
Well, I think Hampton, the council and the city leadership, the city manager at the time, I think they were very forward thinking in creating a position that is a person that is daily in contact with our important federal partners. When BRAC 2005 occurred and the council was kind of taken aback with the closure of Fort Monroe, I think that was a wake-up call that they needed to have much more of an appreciation day in and day out with the working aspects of the federal partners here in Hampton, whether it was Fort Monroe at the time, Langley, the VA Medical Center, or NASA. And so having someone that daily is interacting with their leadership and bringing issues to the table with our council, our city manager, and vice versa, sharing information with our federal partners, I think that was a very good move. And quite frankly, there are some communities throughout the Commonwealth that have actually kind of looked at our position, and in fact I think Norfolk created a position similar to mine, and they have a full-time employee working the Norfolk Naval Base. It's an enormous task. There's a lot of things that the federal footprint here in Hampton brings to our community, so I think it's important to have that working relationship there.
Well, certainly one of the things those institutions bring to our community is jobs. I mean,
Absolutely.
They are among our largest employers, if not our largest employers, and certainly employ people in the region. But in Hampton, that is a lot of money and jobs and work. It's a huge asset.
Absolutely. In fact, I can go down the list with you here. I like to compare our federal facilities in Hampton to our neighbor over in Newport News with the shipyard. The shipyard employs a tremendous amount of folks, and they have a lot of dollars that shipyard brings into the Newport News community. Well, here in Hampton, with Langley Air Force Base, NASA, and the VA Medical Center, they too create an enormous amount of jobs, not only the military and civilian jobs that are in those federal entities, but the contractors, the defense contractors, the high-tech paying jobs. Langley Air Force Base, their federal impact to Hampton and Hampton Roads in fiscal year 11 and 12 was $1.3 billion. Wow. They employ over 1,200 people, military and civilian, and then if you think about the contractors that also support that, so that's a significant amount of money, $1.3 billion.
And there's a big difference now between a federal facility and the shipyard, in that
Absolutely.
The shipyard is private and pays taxes.
Correct.
And the federal government, doesn't so much have to pay us, but it is still that very important economic engine.
Absolutely. Those folks that work there absolutely go to our stores, our shops, our restaurants. They live in our communities.
They're our neighbors, right?
The VA Medical Center, I want to get the numbers right. They've got 1,600 folks that work there.
I don't think most people know that, because you don't drive past it very often. It's off on the waterfront. It's kind of behind Hampton University. If you're not there, you don't realize, or from the water.
Right.
I took that Miss Hampton too, and you can really see how huge that facility is.
Absolutely. It's a great facility, and that center is growing exponentially. They're kind of landlocked, if you will. They've got 86 acres, as I said, 1,600 employees. Their payroll is over $250 million, and 585 of the folks that work at the VA Medical Center live right here in Hampton, so they're residents of Hampton.
And that's important too. And you know, when you look at medical facilities, they're so important for the future. They are institutions that are not only, you know, not shrinking in this day and age, which a lot of places are, but growing because medical needs in general, but specifically more and more veterans, more and more from the most recent wars, in addition to veterans of other wars who need care.
They have their patient load is increasing exponentially because of the drawdown in the Operations Iraqi Freedom and Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan. They've served and they have on their rolls over 40,000 veterans, of which quite a number of those live right here in Hampton. Of the 40,000 veterans, about 12,000 that they're seeing now are OEF, OIF veterans, and about 12% of those are female veterans that are being seen at the Hampton VA Medical Center. And it's a great capacity or great institution for our veterans and for those that need that service. And of course, Virginia, Hampton Roads being one of the largest concentrations of veterans, well over 400,000 in the Hampton Roads area. So that medical center brings a lot to the community.
Right, it is care for our neighbors, but it is also jobs. I mean, when you talk about nursing and technical and physician jobs, those are important careers for folks.
And then over to NASA-Langley Research Center, again, they've got 1,700 folks that they have out there. About half of that is a contracted workforce, but they also have a lot of contracts in place that are right here, and those contractors have their businesses located in Hampton, so they support the NASA Research Center. NASA brings in to the Commonwealth $1 billion annually to the Commonwealth, and they generate about 9,000 high-tech jobs throughout the Commonwealth, and a lot of those benefits are reaped right here in Hampton. The local payroll or the local income or budget for NASA-Langley Research Center this last year was just over $700 million. So you can see between Langley Air Force Base, the VA Medical Center, NASA-Langley Research Center, the jobs, the economic impact. I think it's significant. I really do. I think
absolutely. And let's go back to Langley Air Force Base, or the Joint Base Langley-Eustis, which is, I think, still doesn't roll off most of our tongues. We all still think of it as Langley, but the city has worked on, for example, the King Street corridor and some of the efforts to kind of stabilize the entry to Langley and to work with the federal community. And I know there was a little bit of a buzz about whenever you spend money in the city, people want it in their neighborhood, on the roads they drive. But what is the importance of that entryway into the base?
Sure. Well, historically, that is the gateway to Langley Air Force Base, one of the nation's oldest Air Force bases in the nation, and the first flying operations were based out of there. I think it's going to have its 100th anniversary in 2016 out at Langley. So the gateway is North King Street, and the investment that we're putting there just makes it that much more welcoming to those men and women that serve and enter the gate and enter the base and exit the base and do business or go to our restaurants and shops there. So it's just really it's the great partnership that the city has with Langley, and it shows that we care. Langley is very appreciative that we're doing that upgrade. I mean, it just sends the right message. It's the headquarters for Air Combat Command, so they have a lot of senior Department of Defense officials that come down here and visit, and you want to put your best foot forward and your best architect and your streetscapes and all those things, so you're welcoming and showcasing the great things that the city has to offer. So I think that's a good investment there.
And so some of it really is just to support what's going on there day to day.
Right.
But some of it is also strategic for the future if there are, whenever there are future rounds of BRAC or federal cutbacks, to look at how we can continue to maintain or potentially even grow if there's cutbacks from other places, not from ours.
Sure. So all those investments just enhance our opportunity to signal to the federal leadership that when they're looking at consolidations or closures, that the community really is engaged. They're supporting the mission. They're wanting to enhance the surrounding community aspects that would attract mission growth if that's the case at Langley. And I think we do stand a very good chance at seeing mission growth at Langley, even with the reductions in the military, because they're going to consolidate, and consolidation means that they'll may have to close a base somewhere and move a mission, and people to our community. So I think we want to make sure that we're prepared for that. We're welcoming it. Those opportunities and investing there.
Well, and speaking of consolidation, how does this Joint Base Langley-Eustis thing work? What does that mean?
Sure. So the 2005 BRAC looked at trying to create efficiencies between military installations that were in close proximity, albeit Fort Eustis and Langley are about 19 miles as the crow flies split, but they put the consolidation of the services support from a contracting standpoint under one military department. In this case, the Air Force is the lead for combining the resources and the contracts and the services provided for both installations. So
the Army mission and the Air Force mission stay
the same
at both, and separate.
Correct, at both of those installations, but the Air Force manages the day-to-day parks and recreations things, the public works types of things. Those contracts are all managed under the Air Force, albeit two installations operate daily for those mission, Army and Air Force. So they're trying to achieve efficiencies, save some cost, and bottom line is, yes, save the cost, of course.
Right. Now, so looking into the future, do you see that there will be more of that or other kinds of things that the federal government will do?
Certainly with sequestration on everyone's here in Hampton Roads minds, and it's really created an impact for the Department of Defense. I think they're going to continue to look for better ways to achieve efficiencies. In fact, one of those things, whether or not you'll see more joint basing, I do know that the Air Force Base here at Langley, they're collaborating with us, the City of Hampton, to look at shared services, whether or not they'll potentially close their library and utilize our libraries, utilize our community centers. Their pools are closed right now because of sequestration. So we've worked with them to show them other opportunities for community pools in our community. Out at Fort Monroe, for example, the Ocean Paradise pool is open. So we're working with them to help them through these times, and it's also going to benefit us.
So those ancillary services,
Absolutely.
The things that aren't the flying missions, the actual
Right.
defense,
Right.
but the support for the lives of people who
Correct.
are there.
It could be as much as privatizing the golf course and letting someone manage it for them. The days when the Air Force had to have everything on the base, or certainly when you're in Minot, North Dakota, that might be the case, but when you're in Hampton, Virginia, right outside the gate, you've got hotels, you've got restaurants, you've got movie theaters, bowling,
right.
gymnasiums.
Do you still need those?
Do you need those on the base? Those are the discussions we're having with the base leadership to find out where we can partner with them, where we can create synergies and efficiencies for them. We both are in budget challenging days.
Right.
Certainly the military, certainly the city is constrained within their budget, and we want to partner and see where we can make things work.
Now, how does your background fit into this job? I mean, you speak Air Force, you speak federal government in
Right.
a way that a lot of people may not.
So I, as I mentioned earlier, I was in the Air Force for 26 years, so it's been a learning experience for me to learn city speak and be able
Me too.
to translate Air Force speak back to city speak and vice versa. So I feel like I've learned a new language working here in the city for the past 6 years, which has been very beneficial for me. But that also helps me when I'm trying to work on the military side and that background, or the federal space, whether it's even NASA or the VA Medical Center.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I understand those federal coordinations and staff actions and how they build their budgets because I grew up in that world. And now that I've been with the city, I can kind of be that facilitator, that translator, if you will, between the city and the federal partners. So it's been very, I think, beneficial for
Well, and I think
me.
it takes a lot of your time because those facilities, the lead people, the key people in those facilities change with incredible frequency. I mean, even the VA center,
Right.
that the federal government moves and promotes, and there's a military culture, of
Right.
changing installations. The people that maybe I knew 2 years ago when I first got here are not necessarily
Sure.
the key people anymore.
In fact, this coming Monday, Colonel Kevin Robbins, the 1st Fighter Wing Commander, will be changing command, and there'll be a new commander. Typically at the military installation or even at NASA or the other federal agencies, they try and grow their leadership in these key positions. So that typically means a 2 to 3 year assignment. So you're right, when you have those folks rotating in and out, the continuity really from a city side is Bruce Sturk, if you will. On the military or the federal agency side, they do have some civilians in place that I do have good working relationships with, and they're kind of my continuity. But absolutely, there's a constant change of leadership at all these installations. So making sure that that relationship is there, and when the new commander comes in, they know that not just that they can speak with the Mayor Ward, or the city manager, Mary Bunting, but Bruce Sturk is the person that's probably going to follow through and work those day-to-day activities with that new leadership position coming in.
And then you had your experience with the Interior Department in terms of the Fort Monroe and working to help secure that national monument status.
That was an awesome, I think, all things said with the closure of Fort Monroe was certainly hurt the city of Hampton with the loss of 4,500 plus jobs, a negative 7% impact on our city budget. But the establishment of a national monument was just a phenomenal journey for me. It was such a huge success for Hampton, for the fort, for our nation, for the history that brings. But the Department of Interior too was another federal entity that I was able to work with the mayor leading the charge, if you will, under her leadership, which was a great thing for Hampton and for the community, for the nation to have that as a national monument now.
Now, and that is still a very, very small operation right now.
Right.
But you continue to work with them, and I think we all hope that will grow and be much more prominent and be a big tourism draw for us.
I'm very excited. Kirsten Talkin-Spalding, the superintendent out there, we work with her. She's got one person on staff with her, Yola Dance, and they are feverishly working the plan, the foundation plans, their master plan, if you will. But absolutely, already we see, for example, the 4th of July was a huge success for the city, for the fort, for the visitors out there. But already we see a tremendous amount of people coming to the National Monument just to experience the beauty of that. And they do have a lot of great programs and plans in place. And I think it'll take some time. Typically, if you spoke with Kirsten, I think you've had her on the show here, I think it's 5 to 10 years before they really get up on their feet and you really see everything that a park can bring to you. But it's just going to be phenomenal. I'm so excited for where we are and where we're going to go. And that's going to create a gateway in Phoebus. That Phoebus is going to be like when I experienced Gettysburg, the town of Gettysburg. People go there and they spend money in your store. So Phoebus is going to reap a lot of these benefits, I think.
I think so too. And I think, Phoebus has such character and charm and a lot of the original buildings, and there's just a lot of potential for that to have tourism spin off.
I think it's going to be great. It really is.
Good. So you're very optimistic about the future and where we're going with our federal partners?
I'm very optimistic, albeit with sequestration. I think that's going to take a lot of our military's combat strength and readiness down for a period of time, and I hope we can work through this. But on the flip side, yes, I think our partnerships are strong here. One example that we didn't cover that I know the press has covered and folks are aware that we are now in working the clear zone.
I meant to ask about that. Right. Explain to people what clear zone is.
So the clear zone is the right off the end of the runway, basically where the Air Force has determined that that's the most probable place an aircraft accident could occur. So what you don't want to have in there is non-compatible development or people living in that place for the safety of the folks and for the flight safety of operations. So it's about a 3,000 square foot by 3,000 square foot block right off the end of the runway. And what we're doing, there's 23 privately owned parcels there, and we've reached out to all the owners of those parcels to see if they would be willing sellers so we can put those properties in public ownership and not have any development or incompatible use. And we've been very successful. We've now received an appropriation from the Commonwealth of $3 million. The city's matched that with $3 million. And we have one contract pending right now, so that'll be a good thing for the city. And the contract that's pending is an actual residence, so it's a house that someone could live in, which obviously we don't want to have in the clear zone. So
it's safety for those residents and businesses that are there, and it's security for Langley, for the mission. Partly it is for us, but it is also for the mission. I mean, the Air Force has to be able to train and has to have a place that is as safe as possible for the people around it.
And that's our principal concern. You want to keep the mission, you want to keep the citizens safe. that would be one of those negatives if there was a future BRAC, that they would look and say, hey, you've got non-compatible uses,
right,
and you've got people here in this clear zone, and that's maybe we need to move the mission. Hopefully that would not be the case, but that's why we're being so proactive and working to clean up the clear zone, is my terms. We don't want to have an Oceana like event, so we're moving forward, and I think we're going to be successful in that venue.
Okay, and thank you. And you also work with veterans and service members in other capacities as well.
Absolutely.
You're kind of the go-to person when it comes to military and veterans issues.
Hampton is a very veteran-friendly community city, and yes, there's a lot of veterans that live here, and I do enjoy working with them, whether it's through the Military Affairs Committee that we have that veterans serve on, whether it's just a phone call from a veteran that lives in our community trying to find out information. So it's a very rewarding job for me to be able to continue to serve with our veterans that have served. So.
Well, good. I'm glad, and it certainly is important to the military and federal community here to have you as that asset and that go-to person.
Thanks, Robin. Yeah, I keep smiling. My mom and dad moved here in 1976, so I'm vested in this community. My dad was Air Force and was stationed at Langley, retired in 1980, and I started my career there. So Hampton's been my home for 30 plus years, and we've got a great community. So many things on the bubble of happening here in our community, and it's a great place to live and work and raise your children and family. So I've really appreciated being able to be part of the city team now, and certainly again, Hampton is a great city to live in.
Good. Well, thank you. Thank you for
Thanks,
that, Bruce, and coming by and explaining to people, because I think what you do is sometimes very behind the scenes, and we all don't understand what benefits we reap from the work you do.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it, and I really enjoy watching Round Robin, their series. It's good. It's a good community outreach, so thank you too.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And thank you for watching. I hope you've learned a little bit about the city's connection to our federal partners and the economic benefit that we reap from having them here in our community. Thank you.